Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring Julie and myself. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who wished me very happy birthday wishes. We sincerely appreciate it. Julie's birthday is this Saturday, so what we have a tendency to do is, since Julie's is on the 12th and mine is on the 9th, we celebrate on Julie's birthday. But for all of you who did take the time and send me little personal notes everywhere, thank you. It was a lot to keep up with, and if I, for some reason, did not acknowledge your very kind birthday wishes, please do not think it was intentional. I will find it eventually, and I will say thank you personally.
Yes. That
That is my goal. But it might take me the next 3 or 4, months.
because there were so many, so thank you.
So thank you for that. It was really great. Now, Julie and I would like to announce something that we're really thrilled about, and we did not know this was going to happen, and this has been a bit of a special surprise for Julie and I on our birthday week. So Real Estate Coaching, I wrote this, so Real Estate Coaching Radio is now 26 in the entire United States in the education category. And just to put in reference, it's believed that there's 2 million podcasts globally. So we're now 26 in the entire United States with over 5,000 shows. Actually, we need to figure out how many.
Yeah.
I mean, on iTunes, there's 2,000, but I know on our old, there's probably...
We add them together.
Yeah, there's at least 5,000. We've been doing this, like people will say seasons. I don't know what the hell that means. I think a year maybe. I mean, we've been doing our podcast. When do you think we started this? What year?
Gosh, it's probably been 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, we really do need to go back.
Yeah.
But the podcast's been downloaded over 20 million times, and this is the fastest growing, largest daily podcast for real estate professionals in the United States and beyond the United States. Real estate professionals from over 60 different countries are downloading and listening to this podcast every single day. And a special shout out to all of you forward deployed military servicemen and women. We honor your commitment to our country, and we are really beyond thrilled that you make this podcast part of your daily lives. And the reason we know a lot of military folks listen to us because we actually researched it and found out that a lot of the countries where we're getting downloads in are where there are military bases. And it makes sense because otherwise, why would somebody in a country that does not speak English, why would 500 people in a country, the Turkmenistan or whatever.
Exactly.
They don't speak English there. I generally would assume that's not a common thing. And so it must be military bases. So thank you for that. And thank you for allowing us the honor to fulfill our mission of being, thank you for allowing us to be in alignment with our mission of being of service to our fellow real estate practitioners. And remember, please do leave us a 5-star review and do share this podcast with other real estate agents. But guys, listen, the number 26 thing is a huge deal. And that's an enormous honor, and we sincerely appreciate it. And we really do, love the fact that you guys love the podcast so much. So thank you for that. And also, today's podcast is sponsored by RedX. And RedX is the listings lead source that Julie and I used when we sold real estate. That's where you get your expired leads. That's where you get your for sale by owners leads. That's where you get your absentee owner leads, your REO leads, I think, notice default leads. But anyway, RedX is a service that we use. It's something if you are signing up for our coaching, thousands of you are, and you're saying, I want to get started learning how to be a proactive lead generator, the first thing we're going to tell you do as you're learning the scripts is start calling folks, and the leads that you're going to be calling are the leads that you're getting from RedX. So get a jump on that and go ahead and subscribe to RedX. And remember, when you do, in celebration of our birthday week,
Indeed.
you can save $150. So all you've got to do is text the word RED to 47372. Text the word RED to 47372, and we'll text you back a link to the website where you can sign up. And that, don't worry about having to remember any sort of code. If you just click on the link in the in the text that we send you back, that will then take you to the page that automatically gets you the $150 discount. So the easiest thing for you to do now is just text the word RED, R-E-D, to 47372, and you can subscribe to RedX. It's without a doubt. So someone asked, we get this question a lot, which is kind of funny. if you guys were to get back into real estate, what would you do? And the answer is always the same. What would be our lead sources? Centers of influence, past clients, and expireds. Those would be the primary sources. Where would we get the expired data? RedX, there's no doubt. So if you're ready to jump forward and become a proactive listing agent, now is, frankly, there's never been a better time. Text the word RED, R-E-D, to 47372. And remember, message and data rates may apply. All right, so we are moving forward, and the topic of today's podcast and for the next couple days is 11 must-ask seller questions. Now, this is an overview of the questions that we teach you guys to use when you're pre-qualifying listing appointments, but this will definitely get your gears spinning so that you don't make a mistake like David Doughty. Now,
Indeed.
we received this email the other day, and I asked his permission if we could read it. I did not edit it, so I'm going to have Julie read it now. And it doesn't directly relate to today's topic, but I think it sort of will get your mind realizing the importance of paying attention to all the little details that you are hopefully learning from our coaching program, or at least from this podcast.
Yes, indeed. So this podcast miniseries, again, was partially inspired by David's email that starts like this. Tim, this is just a quick note to say thank you. I've been listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio, that's this podcast, of course, for about a year and a Premier Coaching member for almost that long. I went on a listing appointment Sunday night and nailed it thanks to you and Julie. The sellers agreed to let me list the home, but as I was leaving, Mrs. Seller said, I guess tomorrow I'll have to call our old realtor and let her know we're going to work with you. It was awkward. I should have offered to make that call for her. You just mentioned that scenario on the podcast last week even, but I dropped the ball and didn't offer. The seller called me the next morning to let me know that the past agent, quote, took it hard and that they just had to use her because they're such good friends. I lost the listing because I didn't act. In the past, I would have wondered what I could have done differently. Now, thanks to you and Julie, I immediately know exactly what I should have done, and I will never make that same mistake again. So thank you. Here's to the next one. God bless, from David Doughty.
So a wise man learns from, or woman, right? A wise man or woman learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man or woman learns from the mistakes of others. So I'm hoping, and David is hoping as well, that you guys learn from the mistake that he made, not following all the processes, not following all the steps. David's a coaching client. David's obviously doing exceptionally well. He's well on his way to becoming a very proactive lead generating listing machine, but he skipped a step and that cost him a listing. And I'm guessing in his marketplace, it's going to cost him at least 12 or 15 grand. That is an expensive mistake. And hopefully the pain of losing that potential revenue will be enough that he will never make that mistake again. And this is the importance of when you are serious about your real estate careers, that you follow a proven path. You do not wing it. You do not skip steps. You do not do your own thing. And, Julie and I are doing this kettlebells thing we talked about, and we're putting pictures of us doing kettlebells, which I'm bemused by the fact that all of you are so amused that Julie and I are going through such pain and suffering every morning.
Yeah, enjoy our pain, guys.
I appreciate the fact that you guys appreciate the fact that we're doing what we don't want to do, and we don't want to do it at the highest level. But that is available to you to see our pain and suffering over on Instagram. It's at Tim and Julie Harris. Instagram, obviously, Instagram.com/Tim and Julie Harris if you want to follow us. But here's what I'm hoping you'll learn if you watch the kettlebell workout. What we're learning is, first of all, we had never taken a proper kettlebell class before, and we were doing kettlebells pretty much completely wrong. Well, not completely wrong. We were swinging them, but we were swinging them to the point where we could have hurt ourselves. And so now by hiring a professional coach, he's taken us and we're learning the little tiny micro steps. And now Julie and I are progressing really quickly able to do things that maybe even a month ago we wouldn't have been able to do. It's pretty miraculous when you are seeing the compounding effects of actually having taken the right steps in the right order. And that is what David is now learned, and hopefully you will all learn from David. So David, thank you for that email. And if you guys ever want to share your experiences of your real estate, life or personal, really, you can always email us at tim@timandjulieharris.com. That is my real email. It's not filtered. It goes right to me. Or, of course, you can text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. So today's show is part 1 of 11 must-ask seller questions. Know the answers of these critical seller questions before you go on the appointment. Julie Harris, question numero uno.
That's right. Before you go on the appointment, so you don't feel like you have to tap dance. You don't get caught off guard. So point number 1, and those of you who like to take notes, this is a good time to fire that up. Point number 1, you've got to know what the seller wants, needs, or thinks it's actually worth. Pricing it right in the first place prevents future price reduction drama, or in this market, maybe even the seller wanting to go higher. Even if they're thinking it's worth more than the comparables, you must know by how much and how they arrived at, quote, their price before you arrive at the appointment. Now, that doesn't mean they're right about their price, but you want to know what's going on in their head. And there's a script for that.
Right. And it's worth mentioning, guys, Julie's giving you the overview, but the actual script that you get as part of a Premier Coaching client walks you through the whole thing. So you will just imagine having a script in front of you. It's basically like a questionnaire, seller pre-listing questionnaire. And you go through, you ask one question after the other. Now, we want our scripts are designed for you to internalize and then personalize. We do want you to, memorization is a really important thing because you get the order of things correctly. But after that, we want you to personalize them and then, rather we want you to internalize them next and then personalize them. So really internalization is memorization. Mm-hmm. And then we want you to personalize them. That way, when you're saying the words, they feel natural to you. The reason that everyone struggles with scripts is because they're saying somebody else's words or they're trying to say something that's not even remotely appropriate for the situation or the market or the, whatever, all these little nuanced differences of how people communicate. That's the reason you have to personalize the scripts, but you cannot gut the intent of the questions on our scripts. Otherwise, you will lose focus and you will not get the desired response, let alone the desired result.
That's right. Don't try to personalize before you have memorized and internalized because it will not work. The reason that you've got to study it is so you understand the point of the script. And every script is a simple question which gives you an answer which will allow you to close. All right, so the script, when they tell you the price is too high, which pretty much happens all the time, you're going to respond, "That's interesting, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. How did you arrive at that price?" Now listen carefully. They may have different comparables than you. Remember, a lot of things are not being put in the MLS right now. They might have different comps than you. They might have a recent or even not so recent appraisal or other reasons for their thinking. And here's the secret. Sellers overprice out of either ignorance or arrogance. Even in a hot seller's market, there is such a thing as aspirational pricing when it's just way over market. That's why things still sometimes expire in today's market. Now, let's go back to ignorance versus arrogance. Ignorance in pricing is because they just don't know how to price a home. Remember, that's your job. They don't know that square footage matters, the view, the condition, the different nuances, okay? Arrogance is when they just won't listen to comparable sales and have reasons other than real value to try to justify their price. So your job is to try and determine which it is and whether you can come to a meeting of the minds. Now, cautionary tale here. When there is little or no competition and the seller is higher than your last higher comp,
even a lot higher,
you still may get that price or even higher. We have lots of examples of that from coaching clients right now. Don't lose the listing because you're being super strict on your price. This will change when the market changes, especially when the seller has to sell. You have to take that listing.
Mr. Seller, listen, I appreciate the fact that you think the house is worth, $1.2 million, even though the market, not your CMA, the market is telling you it's worth, say, $1.1 million or $1 million, right? So, Mr. Seller, I appreciate the fact that you think the house is worth $1.2 million. And now that I've been through this property, I can totally see it. This is a fantastic property. The backyard's just as nice, if not nicer than the way you've described it. The updates you've made to the kitchen and the bathroom, I get it. I definitely agree with you. This house very well could be worth $1.2 million. So let's do this. Let's get it on the market, and we'll price it at $1.2 million. But let's agree that after 2 weeks or 10 showings, you can adjust that accordingly. If more expensive stuff's going to get fewer showings, and you're going to have to basically push it out to maybe 30 days or 10 showings or, something like that. We have to agree after 2 weeks or 10 showings, if we want to have a written verified offer on the property, that we will, reposition the house in the market to correctly reflect the buyer's expectations. You guys listen to everything that was packed into what I just said. Okay, I'm setting the seller up to accept the price. I'm not going to lose it over price. That's your ego. I'm not going to piss the seller off and try to make him wrong. That's your ego. I'm laying the groundwork for a future conversation. It's not necessarily baked in that the price is going to be adjusted. And I did not say lower the price. I said we are going to reposition the house in the market to more correctly reflect the buyer's expectations. And by the way, the other script that's interesting, there's so many good scripts with this, Yes. But with regards to trying to find out what the seller, I'm not going to tell you guys the script because Julie needs to get to point number 2 and she has to go do the school run here in a second. But the other script, when you're trying to get the price out of the seller, sometimes the seller won't tell you what they think the price is. And so the gist of the other script is, Mr. Seller, I appreciate that. They'll say something like, well, that's your job to come over and tell me the price. Whenever you have a seller tell you that, whenever that is the reaction, 100% of the time it's because they think their opinion of price is higher than yours and they're trying to avoid the conflict, right? Or they had some other agent blow sunshine up their you-know-whats about price. Either situation is fine. You are ready. Mr. Seller, listen, I appreciate that. And it is my job to help you price the property correctly to meet the buyer's expectations. But what properties have you seen in the market that have sold maybe the last 90 days, 6 months, even 12 months that you thought were most similar to your property so that I can make sure I do the best job possible for you when I'm doing the CMA? Now, most sellers at that point are going to tell you the houses that they view as comps. Some of them are going to push back. And if they push back and you can't get a number out of the seller, go anyway. I know that's, if you don't know, don't go. But you have to push past it. But know what I told you. That's a seller that has an elevated perspective of the property or a seller that's really not motivated. And they're just basically, that's another one of the questions in the seller pre-qualifying thing that we're going to get to in a second. Know exactly why they're selling. Because if they're pushing back real aggressively with trying to share with you their opinion of price, and it's almost always a FSBO, frankly, man. I mean,
usually, yeah.
A guy who's FSBOing his house. But you know what he thinks the house is worth because it's for sale, but if maybe he's not giving you his comps or whatever, or he's thinking about FSBOing is what I meant to say. A lot of people that are pondering FSBOing will be the ones that are least likely to want to share with you the price, and they're going to push back. Just know that is the psychology is that seller probably thinks their house is worth more than the comps, and your job is to not lose the listing over price, especially in this market. I'm sorry I can't give you guys more drilled down information than that. We have to move on to point number 2, but that is the reason why thousands of you join our coaching program. By the way, for those of you who are ready to take action, join our coaching program right now. The easiest and quickest way for you to do it is text the word Premier to 47372. Text the word Premier to 47372. You'll be taken right to the site to sign up for Premier Coaching, and you can, depending on how you join, Premier Coaching can be around $100 per month, and that does include your daily semi-private coaching call. So text the word Premier to 47372. Remember, message and data rates may apply. Point number 2, Julie Harris.
Yes, point number 2, you've got to know the average days on the market for properties like your subject property, not just for the town or zip code it's in, but the actual subdivision or neighborhood. This helps set both your expectations as well as the sellers. It also helps you strategize with sellers who are both buying and selling. Which should they do first based on what you're finding out? What kind of timing should they expect? Will you need to negotiate a lease back for them, right? So many of you have the assumption that you put it on the market, it's going to sell instantaneously. And in some of your markets, that's still true. But let's say you take something like, Austin, Texas has an average days on the market right now of 20 for the greater Austin area, right?
That includes a lot of farmland too, guys.
Yeah. So what if the listing you're going on is a little bit further out of Austin and it's semi-rural and it's a little bit different and it's got 2 acres? Well, something like that might have a 60-day on the market time.
But you've
got to know.
You brought up something else, Julie. What if the seller doesn't want a fast sale?
That's right. And in fact, I have a case study from one of our coaching clients who did everything textbook right, except their assumption was, because the market is speaking this way, right? Their assumption is that the seller wants a quick sale. They want out of there immediately. They didn't ask the question right out of the pre-qualification script. That was one little minor thing that they skipped. And in fact, the seller needed a lease back because they were already in contract with something else whose seller was building, and they needed a longer time. They, in fact, needed about a 90-day lease back. And then our agent actually lost it and learned a tough lesson because they didn't ask about the motivation, the time frame, and made too much of an assumption that it was a quick sale.
So you all are realizing how important it is that you follow a proven path if you want to get consistent results, because those types of questions are the ones that are costing you the listings. This skipping steps. It's not being professional. It's not using our scripts. It's thinking you can make your own script. Oh, I found a script online. I'm going to download it. I watched some YouTube coach. It's not good enough if you're serious about your real estate business. Julie, point number 3.
Point number 3, know the list to sell price ratio for properties like your subject property. Again, this sets expectations. Are homes selling for 100% of list price, 105 going 5% over, or only 95% of list price? Is this a neighborhood where you can expect to get well over list, or is there enough competition that you'll have to negotiate? It does vary. So even though your assumption is things are going generally for at list or over, in every area, there are anomalies to that. Even, let's say you've got condos and you didn't look at the fact that if you're a middle unit, it takes longer than the end units, which sell right away. So you might adjust your expectations for something like that. Certain floor plans in markets like split levels, bi-levels, they might have a different profile than a two-story. You've got to really drill down so that you can set those expectations.
If you're one of our amazing clients in Manhattan or the densely populated areas of these, LA or something, buildings, one building next to another building, they'll all have their own little ratios. There's all little nuanced differences. By the way, all these little sort of annoying, endless nuanced differences are the reason that the technology companies will never be able to replace agents. That's another question I always get at the beginning of the year. Do you think somehow there's going to be some sort of Z estimate, AI robot agent that's going to somehow take over the industry? Hell to the no, that'll never happen, because A, people want to use a professional when they're making any kind of really, I think heady decision.
Yes.
And number two, there's too many nuanced differences in the industry. Now, where there will be a difference are the agents that are actually professional versus the ones that are amateur, the ones that know what questions to ask, the ones that actually know the market. If you're going to succeed at the highest levels, considering the amount of agents that are getting licensed right now, which means there will be more competition for you to, everybody is going to have a real estate license, it would seem. The numbers of people getting licenses have a tendency to increase during economic uncertainty because people look for the proverbial side hustle, or they don't have high level of confidence in what they're doing now, whatever. And they want, how about this? They want to figure out a way to keep up with inflation. People get real estate licenses for all those types of reasons. So bottom line, you better learn to be a professional, or you're probably not going to be in this business for long. Stone cold truth. Most of you will fail within 24 months of getting your license. Now, a lot of you listening are seasoned, grizzled veterans, and you've moved past 24 months. Well, guess what? There's another little, a junction point ahead. At 5 years, that's where the biggest bulk of agents will also fail. And here's another little interesting statistic. Something like 95% of all real estate transactions that happen in 5 years from today are being conducted by agents, or rather humans, that do not yet have real estate licenses. The moral of the story is the industry has massive turnover, but the winners win huge. In this industry, you have people that are sort of, they're not really professional. They sort of are buying leads and Instagramming and TikToking and trying to figure out why they're not making any money. And then you have the ones that are serious about the business. The serious about the business percent is less than 10%. Those are the people willing to do the real work of real estate. Some of you are discovering that you are not in that 10% group and you want to be in the 10% group. Obviously, consider joining our coaching program. Those of you in the 10% group, I will warn you, just because you're there doesn't mean you will stay there. You're going to have to get your skills better. You're going to have to make sure you're not being complacent, and you are being complacent. Everybody gets complacent. Being successful is one of the greatest early warning signs of future strife, because of the fact that you get complacent and you think you've made it and you stop doing what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. So take all these things into consideration. And guys, sincere thanks for keeping this the #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. Now I have a pop quiz. Pop quiz. Please choose one. You are, #1, ready to join eXp Realty. #2, you're interested in eXp Realty, but you need more information. #3, you're not interested in eXp Realty. Well, if you answered #1, congratulations. You're about to join the fastest growing real estate company in the world. And of course, Julie and I would love to be your sponsors at eXp Realty. And if you'd like to move forward with us today and partner with us at eXp Realty, please text me directly at 512-758-0206. If you answered 2, please watch the videos, and I'll tell you how to watch the videos. Just text the letters or the word EXP to 47372. Text the word EXP to 47372 and learn more about EXP. And if you answered #3, no worries. You'll want to check out, you'll want to still text EXP to 47372 anyway, just so you can get some information on what you might be letting get by you. One of the biggest blessings that we've seen in the industry in almost 30 years that Julie and I have been in the real estate business is the fact that eXp Realty is able to create so many pathways to financial independence for so many agents that didn't exist before. This is the 8th greatest wonder of the world, and it's just for people with real estate licenses. We'd love to talk with you about joining us at eXp. If you're ready, text me directly, 512-758-0206. Or obviously, if you're just wanting more information, just text the letters EXP to 47372. And remember, message and data rates may apply.
Indeed. So get to work, guys. Everything we talked about today is well within your control. Ignoring the points that we talked about today makes it so that you are at risk at your next listing appointment. We have more points for you, but let's drill down on what you've already learned today and make the commitment not to fall into those traps.
You guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.